Good evening, everyone. Let's get ready to call this meeting to order. This is our Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board for July 26, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order now with taking our roll call. Aniskevich.
Here.
Gippin. Here. Peoples. Lewis.
Here.
Castle.
Here.
Costa. Present. Richards.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Boyd is here. All right. Can I get a motion to approve last meeting's minutes?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call it. Aniskevich.
Yes.
Gippin.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Castle.
Yes.
Richards.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Boyd, yes. Oh, man. All right, we're going to move into this portion of our meeting into our public comment session. Ms. Aniskevich, I'll turn it over to you.
Reverend Joyce Penfield, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm going to be short and sweet, or maybe short. Two unrelated things. The first, I want to follow up on the discussion of the letter, the email that I sent that was discussed, and about Mr. Eli, I don't know how to pronounce it, Jordan Eli. And so I sent a letter to his lawyer, and I received a response, and I just want to read the part that pertains. Good afternoon. I hope you've been well. My apologies for the delayed response. Jordan, his family, and I send our thanks for submitting a complaint regarding the violence Jordan experienced. And the rest is for me to read. So I just wanted you to know that we had a discussion about his permission and so forth. So he now knows, and he has been sending a letter of thanks. And secondly, unrelated to that, in Moms Demand Action, we're going to have some events. August 8th, we're going to have a Survivor Network meeting at Maple Valley Library. And anyone's invited to come. You just need to register on Moms Demand Action, and then go to Find an Event, and then look under Ohio for all the events listed there. It's from 5:30 to 7:30, and that's a Tuesday evening. We are going to gather together as gun survivors and advocates to learn the struggles that survivors face and how we can work together in the community to prevent future gun violence. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Penfield.
Thank you, Reverend Penfield. Before you sit down, I just want to acknowledge right now before our board and express my sincere appreciation for your faithfulness in this walk. I know you've been doing this for a very, very long time, yeah. And so I know that I've been on other committees and other meetings with you, and you have always stayed consistent and faithful to the message, and I really, really appreciate that. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for that positive feedback. I'm old, so I've had a lot of time to do stuff.
Thank you.
Apostolate.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Reverend Penfield and I have a lot in common. And we're just meeting each other. Neither one of us is from Akron. And I see we're doing a lot of things in common. I wanted to just make a statement before I say some other things. I heard someone in the Akron City Council meeting saying, we're not here for peace, we're here for justice. Well, I want to tell you that until a person operates in peace, there can be no justice. So we're not here to sabotage police and sabotage the people. We're here to seek peaceful negotiations between the police and the people. I organized the Central State University chapter of the NAACP, and it was very challenging because I grew up in a predominantly white community, and I had never been around all black people in my life. I had never been in an all black environment. It was very challenging for me. So I've had the experience of what it takes for policing in both worlds. And I pray that we can do some things better. I also sent you an email 2 weeks ago to ask for a meeting, a community meeting between the police and the people, the citizens of the community, to have a conversation. Put the guns down. Gun violence is one component. there's so many domestic violence, there's so many types of violence. But we don't want the police that are afraid of the people and the people afraid of the police. One of the things I worked on here in Akron since I've been coming here is the initiative with Ron Smith, the Akron's Citizens Local Oversight Task Force, and Chief Millett represented at that event. I also was the chairperson for the religious affairs for Mayor Frank Jackson's last election, his fourth term historic election. And Mayor Jackson in Cleveland has seen to it that not only do we drink from the same fountains, but we can also share and spend family time in the water fountains downtown on Public Square where they used to sell slaves. And there's a lot that we can do together. When I did the National Women's March, I opened up with the invocation and the opening speech for the National Women's March. Police were demanded to participate in violence, but I would like to see you all work on some rules that do not allow police to be immune when they participate in violence also, and then give them some alternatives and some solutions for wanting to participate as such. I'm glad to see you all doing what you're doing, and they're very friendly people, and I really appreciate you all more than you will ever know. This is a very friendly city, and I love it and I appreciate y'all. It's kind of like my Philippi in the book of Philippians. Have a blessed evening. I got some other things I got to do.
Thank you, Apostolate. I think that's it. It's only two.
Is that all, Ms.
That's
Enniscadge?
it.
Can I get a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call. Enniscadge?
Yes.
Gippin? Yes. Lewis? Yes. Castle?
Yes.
Costa?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Boyd, yes. All right, we'll lean into our agenda item number 3, which is our subcommittee report out. First, I'll start with item A with governance. Mr. Gippin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Governance has not met, so there is no report. I just want to comment that as far as a committee plan for the immediate future, I think that even with the rules in council and without knowing the outcome of that, I think it's timely to begin working on some procedures that almost certainly will not, we will certainly need to implement, and in particular, I'm going to suggest to the committee we begin working on the ways in which we would start to address the larger issue of, investigating and reporting on the overall functions of the police department, looking towards a comprehensive report next year. So I intend to begin that work.
Any further comments or questions from Mr. Gippin?
What would that entail, Mr. Gippin?
Well, I mean, we're going to need to have a thoughtful work plan, and I think it really falls into procedures initially as to how we're going to do it. But it's no easy task, and I think beginning to figure out how we best can address it, I think it's timely to do that. So that's why I'm suggesting the committee begin to look at the question.
And Mr. Gippin, just for clarity, are you saying as far as how we go about making recommendations based on some of the policies and procedures, is looking at it from that perspective? I'm just...
Well, honestly, I haven't thought about it that far. I just know that we're tasked with, under the charter, with doing an overall report and recommendation. And particularly this initial report, that I assume would be coming out sometime next year, is going to be especially important. Mm-hmm. And I think figuring out how best to do it that's the first task, is figure out how do we address the problem. But I mean, it's the whole comprehensive question of how do we do that report in the end.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gippin.
Sure.
Any further comments or questions for Mr. Gippin? All right, if not, thank you so much for your report out. Next, we're going to go to item B under our subcommittees, and that'll be Ms. Richards and our Human Resources and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Fields is here with us tonight. I take it from your presence that all the contract things got settled?
Yes, they have.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
We will
My
begin
pleasure.
our process of training Mr. Fields and getting him up to date on what we would like his role to be and how that is going to be laid out in the next 3 months. HR subcommittee kind of met. We had 4 interviews for the admin 3 position last Wednesday. 4 really amazing I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
Candidates.
3 amazing candidates, thank you. And we put forth 2 of them for background checks because we learned from last time that that's probably a wise move. We liked different things about each of them and thought they would both be an excellent admin 3. So they are in the process of getting their background checks completed. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Mr. Fields, for being here with us on this evening.
Oh, it's my honor, my privilege. Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate being here
You
among
might-
you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I appreciate being here among you. Looking forward to working with each and every one of you. Looking forward to doing a fantastic job working with the community, and I'm just ready to get started.
Mr. Fields, you want to share what some of the stuff you've done already that Bev had given you, some things to review or just to, you know?
Yeah, at this point, I've reviewed the entire packet that Bev presented to me a couple of weeks ago, police policies and procedures, the actual complaint forms, procedures for filing and complaints. I feel I'm pretty much up to speed on the initial review of documents, so I'm ready to hit the ground. Looking forward to some training. Looking forward to meeting the police and getting their rapport and developing relationships and moving forward. Looking to do some great work in the community.
Thank you.
And so just a couple of, and thank you for being here this evening as well too. A couple of points of clarity. Do we have any, I guess, formal orientation scheduled, or is there a plan to have any type of formal orientation set up for Mr. Fields?
I've been working on getting his contract finalized, and I didn't realize that it had been until he appeared tonight. So that will be my next move, hopefully with the prosecutor's office and the police department to get that rolling.
Okay. Let me know if you need any help with that.
Thank you.
And then and then what is our anticipated date in which we expect Mr. Fields to take over the handling of police complaints for Mr. Peoples?
We were going to address that with Mr. Peoples as he's currently on vacation, but I would think it would be a fairly short amount of time, but that has not been set yet.
Okay, no worries.
I have a question. Beverly, did Mr. Angeloni, has he gotten back with you about his contract? Or remember a couple of weeks ago, he was like, well, it's got to go through this hand and that hand and this hand and that hand.
The last I heard was they were waiting on the W-9 from Mr. Fields, and I think he produced that yesterday or
Yes.
the day before. So that's all I've heard. So I haven't heard that it's official, that it's totally done. When I get that word, then we can move forward.
Okay, thanks.
I feel like, so I'd anticipate without knowing more is that it seems like the contract's been fully executed, but we still haven't had an issuance of a certificate of execution from the finance director. So that's probably the last piece to be finalized.
Okay, great.
Is that all for your report, Ms. Richards?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks so much. Going on to item C at our subcommittees, our community engagement, Ms. Lewis.
So, we've had several opportunities this past weekend to attend several events. One event that's coming up this Tuesday is the National Night Out that's sponsored by the City of Akron, and that will be at all wards. And so I'm asking all the board to participate by distributing our informational flyer here. And you should have a copy of that for our community conversation, our Eat and Greet community conversation on August the 6th at 2 p.m. at Mason Park. And we have a good number of confirmations for our resource providers, so we'll also have resource providers on hand. We'll have the two-sided card that we've been anticipating, and also we'll have some council news available. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Is your mic
Some say
on?
yes, some say no.
I can't. Is your mic on?
No, thank you, Ms. Henry.
Yeah,
Let-
because
let
I
me
couldn't
start
hear
over.
it. Okay.
My apologies. Now you can hear me. I apologize. So once again, the community engagement had an opportunity to attend several events this past weekend. One event that we are particular about making sure that we attend is the National Night Out on August the 1st, which is a Tuesday. It will be at all the wards, and I'm asking, once again, each one of the committee members to pass out the informational flyer here, and I think you all have that for our meet and greet, which is going to be August the 6th at 2 p.m. at Mason Park. And once again, we have a good number of confirmations for resource providers who will also be on hand to share information, and council members. So we're looking forward to that and making sure that everyone gets the word out. We also have our informational card, our two-sided informational card, and the last thing that we're doing that we've been talking about is our survey, which is in progress. We have a quote, but we have to tweak those numbers and come back to you and let you know what that's all about. And that's pretty much all I have.
Just quick point of clarification. Who do we go with for the quote for the survey? Was that the health department?
No, it is what is that, Mr. Gibbons, again? I can't remember.
Well, no, it's the group that just does the comprehensive action survey.
The consumer.
I've got it right here.
Let me see.
Akron Community Research. Ms. Lewis asked me to kind of get involved with that. I'm going to be speaking with Michelle Henry from the organization tomorrow morning.
Beautiful, thank you.
Is there any particular reason why you raised that question? Because we had shared before. Were you interested in?
No, just
some
because I
input?
know we had talked about doing, we talked about a couple of different survey providers, and I'm just kind of thinking about some of the pieces that might be required from whoever the vendor is based upon, and then the timeline and how that may fit into the context of other things that we're doing. And I'm just curious.
Oh, sure.
Nosy.
And so when we get the proposal, we have to do some tweaking so far as what we want versus what they can provide, and then we'll make sure that we come back and share it.
Yeah, I don't, just talking about it and reading the proposal, I mean, I don't know that there's going to have to be a lot of discussion. And, whether this ultimately is a proposal we would bring back, I don't think we know that yet. There's a lot to talk about concerning it.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Richards? Okay, we're going to move on to item D, which are complaints, so that means I'm up. I had the complaint phone this weekend, or concerns, as we might want to call them as well. But before I move into that, I just want to acknowledge some of our guests in the room, and in particular, I want to acknowledge Akron City Director of HR, Yamini Atkins. Thanks so much for being here with us this evening, and the help that you're providing us as we go through the process of hiring. And so I'm sure you're going to hear more from myself or either from Bev and that subcommittee about things, but thanks so much for being here with us on this evening, as well as Deputy Chief Brian Harding, and also our City Prosecutor, Chief Prosecutor, Mr. Craig Morrison. Thanks so much for being with us. And also we're going to be hearing from the Director of our Law Department in our executive session, Ms. Eve Belfast. Thank you all so much for making the time to come and be with us this evening. As far as the complaints, I'm not going to say there were no complaints because there were some. However, there were some that are not in our jurisdiction to do anything with. We have a phone call from somebody from Norton who had wanted to make a complaint against the police department in Norton, and I was able to help her as far as how she can go about doing that. And Caitlin was a help to me in that regard as well. And also there was another complaint that Mr. Peoples had already followed up on, which was probably more of a civil matter versus making a complaint towards the police department. Along with that, what I do want to share is there were 2 phone calls offering, I think, encouragement and commendating our police department of some of the actions that they have done, even from a one-on-one perspective of working with this particular individual from our city. And I think that's important to acknowledge too. We don't always want to lean on always the negative, but I think it is good also to share some of the positive reports. I know that as a father, I don't want my teachers to call me about my kids only when they're doing something wrong. but call me as well when they're doing something right. So it was really good to have that conversation on Saturday, right after we left our retreat. And so I want to say everything is moving forward. And I think we're doing a good job of getting back to the community as far as their complaints. Obviously, we have to continue to do a little bit better at it in our flow. And so I think, to your point, Mr. Gippin, how we do that and those processes are going to help as we look at some of those flows. So that's what I have as of today. Anybody have any questions or comments for me?
Mr. Chair, we appreciate the feedback that we got about the complaint section and you being transparent about it, exactly the type of calls that you received. So we appreciate the way that you reported that out. Thank you.
And I also want to say thank you for mentioning the complaints that you, or the comments that you did get from the public about praising the police for what they have done, because I think it's important for the public too to understand that this thing with the citizens of Akron and the police department is a work in progress, and that work is going to require both the positive and the negative, and in the end, when it all comes to a head in the end, hopefully, you know, the harmony that we seek to create between the community and the police, because the police are part of our community, hopefully it'll be there in the end. So I do think it's important, and I appreciate you mentioning that as well, and not just mentioning, you know, complaints that people have against the police, but also the praise that they have for them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Any other further comments or questions for me before we move forward with our agenda? Okay. I'll go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Just along the lines of positive police interactions, I attended the Putting with the Police event that took place at Mud Run, and I was overwhelmed. I don't think I've ever seen as many kids be so excited to engage with police officers, as well as their canine companions as well. It was a really awesome event, and I think that at the end of the day, when we think about the work that we do, at its core, I think this city is going to be inherited by the children that inhabit it. And so at the end of the day, I think the thing that motivates me more than anything was just kind of seeing the kids be really excited to engage with police, and that gave me a lot of hope just in terms of creating a culture to where we do have you know, safe and positive interactions with the police is a norm rather than something unusual. So, yeah.
Mr. Costa, are you going to report out to this board how that was your ball that went in the water at Putting with the Police? Are you going to acknowledge that as well? That was your ball that went into the water?
That was not my ball that went into the water. I did not approach or hit any shots. I will say my game is coming together a little bit better this season.
We appreciate that. We're going to move on to item number 4 on our agenda, which is new business. And the only new business there is to report out on is item A, which is our retreat feedback. I just want to open up for any one of our board members that'd like to give some of the feedback regarding the retreat.
Yes, I would. I enjoyed the retreat. I thought that the information that we received from Barb was put together well. It was information that we needed to hear, read, and we're going to be pondering on it for a while yet to go. I would like, and I know that we're going to have a second one, I still, where I feel we fell short was the team building piece of the retreat, and I would like to have more of that the next time around, especially since she has given us some really, really good information for us to sink our teeth into, you know, as far as how this board should be operating and what we should be doing, and it's up to us to read all the information that she's given us. So I do think because we have that on the front end, I think that when we have our follow-up retreat, we should do a little bit more team building, and not to not incorporate that, but just to incorporate the team building a little bit more. I realize she had an agenda, and I think that she met that agenda very well. I just would like to do a little bit more team building, spend a little bit more time on that as well. So
I appreciate, you know, they say that relationship is everything, and so just to get to know different members on the board in a different setting, to me, was very positive and productive.
I just want to personally say again to Ms. Green, we appreciate all of the hard work that she put into this retreat. It was informative, it was enlightening, and it allowed for a lot of reflection on my end on the responsibilities that we have moving forward, and the way that we can really pave a strong foundation to make this city one of the greatest cities to ever exist. And also, I learned that I think I want Kemp to introduce me from here on out. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Costa for arranging the space. I thought it was a lovely location, and I may or may not have asked him if I could take one of the mugs. Maybe. I did ask him, and he said yes. And for Ms. Reed for arranging the food, which was delicious.
yes.
I too enjoyed the day, and I thought it was well-balanced and a lot of good information, a lot of good sharing.
Yeah, I've reached out to Ms. Green since and thanked her. I think that the content that was presented to us, especially with respect to some of the best practices among police oversight boards across the country, is going to be incredibly invaluable, especially as we gather our report looking towards the end of the year, as we put together some of our strategic priorities in terms of things that we're looking to do. I got a big shout out and a thank you from the Haven Arrest. All of our leftover food from the retreat was delivered to them with a hug and a smile. And so I think that it was a good opportunity for us to get to know each other, and I thank everybody for their time and attention.
Yeah, I believe for me it was very symbolic to, you know, the 9 of us that are on this board, and really it symbolizing our city at this time, right? We're 9 people, 9 different backgrounds, 9 different perspectives, 9 kind of different ways of doing things. And I look across our city and I feel like our city's the same way. However, we come here and into these chambers from, you know, days and weeks that we're talking and working, and at the same time, what we're trying to do is establish and build a team amongst each other, right? And I look across our city and I feel like it's the same thing. I echo what Ms. Reed says. You know, I think one of my takeaways in leaving there is how do we build, you know, the best city in the world? How do we do that to where people feel safe, right? And they feel safe in this city. And I'm not just talking about simply civilians, but I'm talking about our police department as well. How do we all come together as one team, if you will, as Team Akron, to really lean into one another in a different way, right? But also be able to listen to understand each other and to really hear each other. and not come from this perspective of defending the dam, right, that we defend, right? Like, you know, I'm just coming from practice, so I'm always going to defend the Garfield Golden Rams, right? But at the same time, if that is my perspective about everything, I'm going to miss the interaction and the development of a relationship with other coaches from other schools, but also those players from those other schools as well, right? And I'm just really excited about the opportunities that we have as a board, and to Ms. Anaskevich's point, and getting to learn and learn more about you all as well. Not saying that we're going to agree, but we can definitely understand each other. And also took this perspective away as well. And I know we've talked about this here when it comes to financially and the outputting of what we are giving as a board. And the one perspective that I took away that I don't know if any of us, I haven't heard this said in these chambers, and I know Ms. Anaskevich and Ms. Reed brought this up, but my perspective leaving is that the foundation we are building is essentially not for us as a board. Like, we're building this for who is coming after us. And we're establishing the work that is going to take and that's going to happen. And even leaving that retreat, which we started to put together our strategic plan that we're going to be able to submit to the public, right, as we go into 2024 and what that's going to look like. Man, but I walked away saying, man, it's going to be a lot of work. And what I want to say is, I don't think anybody's motives is to get rich off of being on the Oversight board. However, I do want to say that I think that we have to take in mind who's going to come after us from a quality perspective. And if we want quality people, I think there's going to take some quality effort from a standpoint of what we give, because I look at the time that we have given as a board, and I'm not saying that this is going to change today, but I want to give us a perspective of something to think about in another way. Not simply for us, but those who are going to come after us, and what that looks like as we establish whatever the salary or the pay is going to be for being on this board. Because I don't know about y'all, but I think I got like 6 jobs now, and that's okay, because all of them fit really well in the puzzle, because, hey, at the end of the day, I think I love Akron. No pun intended. But for me, that is a way of life. And so because I do these things, and it's nothing wrong with placing value on our time. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you don't want that, that's fine. I just don't want to see us cut each other down, because that is brought up from that perspective. And so I just want to say that, and again, we don't have to revisit tonight, but I just wanted to offer another perspective, not just for us, but those who will come after us, and what that looks like, and how we do that, right? Because let's just be honest right now, we are the independent auditor right now, whether we realize it or not. I've been walking around with this phone for the past 3-4 days. And I'm checking this phone more than my own personal phone, okay? And so that's time, that's effort. That's not only physical time, but it's mental and emotional time as well. Because as you engage the public, you're engaging with them where they are in that emotional state. And that's not always easy, but it does force us to be a little bit more patient, express a little bit more empathy, and just to be a little bit more curious, but also considerate, even in the midst of all the things. So I want us to be more considerate, first of all, of each other and what maybe was brought up before, and looking at it from this perspective, and as well as others, but also as we continue to move on and build this out, because, hey, here's what we know, it's going to be a heavy lift. Because anytime you're laying the foundation, that is the hardest part of building a house. It's easy for the windows because we can order and we can have somebody come and do it, right? But laying the foundation, we want to make sure it's balanced, we want to make sure it's even. And that's why it's not just about us having a complaint form, but how do we build a commendation form for our officers? Because we need to be able to hear both. It's not an either or, it's a both and. And if we're going to do that, then that's going to be some of the work. And so I just wanted to share that, because I tell you what, Barb did a phenomenal job, I believe, of bringing out the essence and the best of what this can be, outside of all the other pressures that I think we all felt when we walk into these chambers 3 months ago. And so I just want to commend, first of all, each and every one of you for accepting the task that lies before each and every one of us. Know that you are in my prayers every day, because I need you. And it's because of you that I am. And so I'm very, very appreciative of that experience of the retreat and look forward to the next step. All right. If it won't be anything else, can I get a motion to move into, no, I'm sorry, we're going into old business, item 5. My apologies. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Costa.
Okay, so I guess as a real estate attorney, I fell into the role of finding a space. So I have confirmed that our meetings for August 9th and August 23rd will take place at 670 West Exchange Street. This is that's 670 West Exchange Street. This is the Head Start location and also one of the large sites for Akron Community Action. Their President and CEO, Mr. Costa, was kind enough to allow us to use the space and the boardroom for those 2 meetings. And so what I've done is I've reached out to their staff to confirm as well too. What I'd ask is that we limit, if possible, the times of the meeting to our 6 to 8 o'clock block, so we can be sensitive to their staff cost and get somebody leaving the space on time. But as of now, we do have space there. The technology is there and sufficient so that we can live stream as well too. And I believe that we will be more than comfortable in the space. And so we can plan for August 9th and August 23rd. Our CPOB meetings will be at 670 West Exchange Street. I know I'm notorious for walking in about 5 minutes before our meetings start, but I will get there early and I will go over and suss out the space just to make sure that everything is up to par in terms of what we will need in order to accommodate a productive meeting.
Will we be streaming from that location, Mr. Costa?
Yes, we will be.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Ms. Anastasia, could you please check with Matt, because he was asking before that, just let him know that we would like to stream from that location.
Yes.
And so let's talk to him about, yeah.
Yes, because you won't be there, right?
No, I won't be there on the 9th, no. I'll be, but we can have it over at Camp Montauk at our football camp if y'all would all like to come out there. And I'll give you all a whistle.
Have we conferred with the police department about the people at the door, things like that, how they, or can we do that?
We will need to follow up with that. Yeah.
You'll take care of that?
Yeah.
So,
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Are people who are monitor the doors and?
Yeah, Officer Chris will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 2 gentlemen at the front tonight just mentioned it to me and said, are you moving somewhere else? Is anyone going to tell us? And I said,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure we'll
Officer
be in
Chris.
charge of
Yeah,
it.
I already talked to Officer Chris.
so we'll have space for public comment and mics and that type of thing, or?
We will ensure that the space is productive and adequate towards our needs. So I'm gonna be transparent, I haven't been over there to see the space.
Okay.
It's been probably about 1.5 years since I've been over there, and I know some modifications have been made to the space, but we can certainly arrange it. I know that there is a room directly behind the primary board meeting space to accommodate public, and so I think we just need to set up perhaps a podium or a place that we designate for the public to come make their comment, which I think will be a reasonable do.
Okay, but there's not a room number or anything, correct?
No, it's just their boardroom. It's labeled as a boardroom.
Okay, okay.
And then, again, I'll make sure that I get there earlier, and if possible, maybe try to get some signage, but I don't want to,
Okay.
yeah. It'll be great.
Well, since I'll be in charge that night, I don't want any problems. I don't want people throwing shade on me about, yeah.
And just as a backup, the library has a conference room that has a podium and 2 mics, so that's available. All we need to do is make reservations.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Costa. Appreciate that. We're moving out of old business. Can I get a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Point of information, Mr. Chair, what is the purpose of going into executive session that needs to be stated?
We're going to be hearing from our law department regarding,
I don't think that in and of itself falls within one of the exceptions. What is the intended purpose?
It would be legal advice under our charter.
I'll second the motion.
right? Aniskevich,
Yes.
Gippon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Castle.
Yes.
Costa,
Yes.
Richards.
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Boyd, yes. Castle. Costa. Richards. Reed.
Yes.
All righty. All right. Okay. That was spirited.
Not that long of a walk.
All right, well, I mean, I'm about to say, yeah, we're through our agenda.
Yeah.
So, can I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Second?
Anaskevich?
Yes.
Gibbon? Lewis?
Yes.
Castle?
Yes.
Casa?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Boyd, yes. Citizens adjourn, have safe travels going home. God bless. Yes.